Hello, and welcome to Alcohol Free Radio. I'm your host, Chris Becker, and I'm excited to have you join us. Whether you are new to the amazing and growing alcohol-free community or someone who is already familiar, we hope you enjoy our program. This is where you can hear from some people making a real difference, whether as brewers or producers of amazing beverages, influencers in the community, authors, storytellers, and more. We aim to break it down and bring it all together. Our goal is simple: to build awareness about this great community and to help make alcohol-free fun, easy, and tasting great. So here we go. Enjoy. Hi there, Chris Becker with Alcohol Free Radio. The episode you're about to hear is from our studio and bottle experience center here in Madison, Connecticut, but also with someone from our team who I will tell you about when the episode opens. So we're excited to bring this to you and give you a bit from the front lines of Better Rhodes. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Alcohol Free Radio. I am excited to have a live on location, as I always am, but with a live guest, which happens sometimes. But here with one of our own, Andrew Chartier, who's our head of customer service and experience here at Better Rhodes. And there's lots to say and talk about in terms of all the interactions that we have, and also talking with other bar and beverage stores that we work with around this space, because it's so new. So, and I know Andrew has a lot to say and deals with customers in many places, including here in Madison. So I'm excited to kind of get in there and talk a bit about what people are seeing, saying, and hearing and tasting in this space. But first, I will ask Andrew to say a little bit about himself, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. As Chris mentioned, I do all the customer service, customer experience stuff for Better Rhodes. It's been an awesome ride so far. I've been with Better Rhodes for about a year and a half, which is crazy, but also really cool because so much has happened in that year and a half. Quick little tidbit: if you stay tuned to the end of this episode, I have a special discount code for all of you listeners, and so yeah, stay nice on to the end, and we'll give you a special discount for tuning in. So I come from a very interesting and diverse background. My experience, mostly before I started working for Better Rhodes, was in the restaurant industry, and then also in customer service. So kind of brought those two things together for my work at Better Rhodes, and happy to be here.
All right. So I kind of just want to dive right in. Obviously, you and I are here often together through all kinds of different events. We've taken our mobile bar to different places, in stadiums, in outdoor events, and everything in between. Obviously here in the store, and some other events that are coming up even next week and beyond. With all of that that you've seen and done, and know it's only a year and a half, but the industry isn't much older than that, at least in terms of what we've been seeing in the growth, and certainly our journey at Better Rhodes. So customers, all shapes and sizes, as the name of the company suggests. We kind of have always known that there's lots of different roads or journeys people are on when they're looking at where better for you beverages or alcohol-free fits in. But I'd love some highlights, some of the folks that you've met along the way, the types of questions they ask, the types of things that surprise them. Like, give us a taste.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're in luck, because I prepared some thoughts here. I went to sort of what are the most frequently asked questions from our customers. So I could just dive into some of those. So, I've met all kinds of people, working, selling in person, and, responding to our customers online. And, some key themes have kind of come out through that point. So I think the overarching thing I think that's really important to know about the alcohol-free and non-alcoholic space is that it will really help you navigate this space if you think of it as its own category of beverages. So,
as opposed to?
A lot of the things that we sell are what would be considered alternatives to. So wine, but it's alcohol-free.
Right.
Spirits, but it's alcohol-free.
Right.
But if you kind of umbrella the whole alcohol-free and non-alcoholic space as its own category of beverages, and don't rely so much on comparing it to the, traditionally made alcohol beverages. I think it helps our customers kind of wrap their head around it a little bit more. So with that in mind, like, the first question that we get, one of the biggest questions that we get all the time is like, well, these drinks, these beverages, these my purchases is pretty expensive.
Yes.
And so, I wanted just to speak to that a little bit, because let's just take wine, for example. So alcohol-free or non-alcoholic wine. People are like, well, shouldn't this be less expensive because isn't it essentially just a grape juice? Well, no. So the complicated answer to that question is most of the wines that we sell, alcohol-free or non-alcoholic wines, they were created with extreme care and dedication as traditionally made wine first.
Right. Yeah.
And then they go through a very complicated, very labor-intensive, and very finicky process of de-alcoholization, where the alcohol is removed. So if you take into account the fact that first this was created as a wonderful wine, and then also care was put into taking and removing the alcohol very carefully as to not affect the flavor, then a lot of care has gone into these beverages. These are truly artisanal, crafted people who really, really care about what they're doing. It's not just like, slinging out a bottle of $5 wine. Right. So much care has gone into it, and that's kind of where you see that reflected in the price a little bit. But prices on average are, pretty much on par with their alcohol.
Even with all that extra.
Right.
I've been starting to call it a bit of I like analogies is it's like giving the wine a heart transplant. The body is still there, the spirit and soul of the product is still there, but it's a shock to the system, to say the least. And it's interesting to see what's already been happening in the current generation of better for you or alcohol-free wines, but also seeing, hearing, reading, talking to people around now what's coming, and even more dedication and focus on that. So, and how does that resonate? So, you and I are obviously familiar with that conversation, and kind of like, well, there's no alcohol, it should cost less, not more. And then, well, actually it's harder. It's surprising it doesn't actually cost more, right, given the extra work. How do people react to that? Is that good? Does that work?
Yeah, I think I think people respond really favorably once you take the time to kind of explain how the beverages are made.
Right.
People just coming into this space for the first time, they don't really have a basis of understanding around it. So just taking that little bit of extra time to really give a nice, detailed explanation, if the customer is willing to listen, then I've had positive reactions for sure.
Well, and actually picking up on that, because I try, in this industry or, in anything, we're absorbed in this. So, we may be fascinated or interested about articles or things we read that, sometimes people are just curious and they're kind of coming in maybe a little bit more with kind of, I guess I would say, pedestrian curiosity, not in a bad way. Like, how deep do you find people? Like, are some people I know are very interested, and some people are kind of curious, but how do you know when to kind of how deep to go with the story, depending on some of the folks that you've talked to? I
think it just depends on the venue. If they've already made their way to betterrhodes.com or they've actually come into our showroom, these are pretty dedicated, customers already. So they've
it's not a high traffic.
So they've sought
zone.
us out. But it's been super interesting when we go to events where people just see us, like see our setup or our booth or our mobile bar from a zoomed out perspective. They're looking and they see all of our pretty bottles, which you can see behind us here. And you wouldn't know that these products were alcohol free. So they come up and they're like, ooh, I want to try some of this. And we're like, well, everything we sell is alcohol free. And so there's that first initial
So what's the first split?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to get them over that hump. As soon as you say, here, I have a taste for you. Right. Why don't you try it? People just go, oh, alcohol-free, I'm not interested. And then
so that's one split.
That's one split,
Once some people are like, I've seen lots of interesting, awkward, and they sometimes just walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
But once you can actually get someone to have a taste of something, and they taste it, and they're like, oh, this tastes good. This tastes like wine, or this tastes like beer. Like, well, it is wine. It is beer. It just doesn't have the alcohol in it. So I think one of the interesting things that I like to tell people, especially first-time customers, is I think people still, and it's fine, not in a bad way, but people have a connotation between this space of these beverages that we sell and complete sobriety, where we have found that actually the majority of our customers still consume alcohol in some way, and it's more about the moderation or the health benefits of not drinking alcohol. So I think that's one of the talking points that I usually go into with newer customers, is to say, this doesn't have to replace if you enjoy a specific type of wine, that's great. You might enjoy a glass of your wine, traditionally made wine with alcohol in it, and then you might have a second and a third glass of our wine if you have an important meeting the next morning, or you're training for a marathon, or whatever it is. Fitting these products into your lifestyle for health reasons is, I think it's a good way to sort of get people to understand that it's not just about cutting out all alcohol altogether.
Okay. What else? What are some of the other things that come up a lot when you're talking to customers?
So, obviously we know there's been a global pandemic for the last couple of years. So supply chain has been an issue, but I did want to speak briefly to having our products in stock versus not in stock. One thing to keep in mind, especially for wines and spirits and all of our beers across all categories, except for maybe sodas and mixers, that our products for the most part tend to be from smaller creators, smaller manufacturers who are doing batches. Now what that means is, for a wine, for example, they might bottle 20,000 bottles of this alcohol-free wine in that one bottling. And then if that sells through, we then and our customers have to wait until it comes back around to the next bottling again. So it's not like a huge winery your entry-level wines that you see in the store all the time. That's safe, it's reliable. That's because they're doing volumes of millions of bottles of wine at a time, where our products are a little bit more niche, a little bit more craft, and so the smaller bottlings or canning or whatever does mean that there might be gaps in your ability.
We'll take a bit of that too. I think we're getting better at and learning, we're kind of going into our third season ish. That first one was really kind of half, where we're learning in terms of what's that amount that we're going to need, and how do we get it here, and how do we get it to our setup in the West Coast and places like that. So I think it's a bit of both, but then you exacerbate it that the entire world, I guess, has been dealing with supply chain on top of that. If you're out there waiting for your delivery,
it's on the way.
Give you some background. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, I think then sort of the third biggest customer question that we get is, are these beverages better for me than the alcohol-free or traditional alcohol-made beverages? And the blanket answer is yes, because they don't contain alcohol. So you don't have...
Right there you're ahead.
Right there you're already ahead. No negative effects from alcohol. In terms of sugar content or carbs and all of that stuff, alcohol-free as a category and non-alcoholic beverages tend to have a third fewer calories and sugar.
A third of the calories or a third fewer?
A third less. So basically 30% less. So so 2/3 of the traditionally made, because a lot of that sugar content goes away when you remove the alcohol.
Right.
So that's kind of a blanket answer, but the real answer that I would love to educate, our customers and anyone who's listening is, it's just a huge wide range. It's not like you can't lump the whole category together. It's just like there are wines that contain more sugar or more, whichever it is, or, there's sodas and diet sodas, and there's light beer and dark beer, and all varying different levels of sugar and carbs and all that. It's the same thing with our beverages. So it's a wide range, and we do, in case you're listening and you've ever been on betterrhodes.com and you have hard time finding the nutritional information, we put the nutritional information for our products in the product images. So as you're looking at your product, you might be
That way
reading
it's
the
easy to see on your
description.
phone. Okay.
You might be reading the description and not seeing it in there, but if you just swipe through the images, you'll find a nutritional panel for all of our products that has all of that information for you. And that's where to find it, on betterrhodes.com.
Because I think, I spend a fair amount of my time talking to makers with what's already in market and what's coming. And there does seem to be, especially in the United States, I think everybody, we want more, we want it now, we want it all, we want it cheap, we want it delivered for free. There's this sense of, okay, I get it, no alcohol, low calorie, but now I'm starting to hear more, but what else? What else am I getting? So, and we do have a functional category, and there's lots of things happening in that area and even beyond with cannabis, CBD and THC infused drinks. Are you getting much of that? And if so, is it category specific, or are people just like, what kind of other questions do you get when you go beyond kind of less sugar, no alcohol?
Yeah, I think you can kind of take that in two ways. Like the functional beverages that you mentioned, so these are, alcohol-free drinks that are created with certain botanic ingredients that are meant to affect your mood, or
Right.
help you to relax, or help you to feel a little bit more stimulated, but without the alcohol. That's so we have that one subset of category, and I love explaining those beverages to people because it's a kind of a toes the line between something that helps you feel a certain way, but not because of the alcohol that's in
Right.
it. And then I think the other one is just taste, which people want to know what it tastes like, and they
Right.
want to know, they don't want to have to necessarily commit to a big purchase to sample. And this is kind of how the company got started, right? Like you were trying to find
The sample box.
alcohol-free
'Cause
beers,
wow, that's a
right?
lot of money to test out some drinks that I may like or not. Right.
So the great thing, I think, since you founded Better Rhodes and this space got going, is there are so many more opportunities for people to try these products now. So we offer tastings here in our showroom. If you're not local to the area or you can't travel to beautiful Madison, Connecticut, there's probably a bottle shop or something that's popping up near you.
Definitely.
So I would do that research, find out where where these products can be tasted, try them out, and then order your favorites from betterrhodes.com.
Yeah. Well, in our Better Without app now, I think there's a lot more
the
to
app
do.
too, yeah.
But that's giving people, hey, I'm in New York, I'm in LA, I'm in Chicago, and more beyond, Toronto. Where can I see? And we're asking folks to start telling us where their favorite spots are, because we can't possibly, it's expanding so fast, and it's a vast country, obviously, vast continent, to try to keep up with that. So hopefully that'll be more and more to kind of give people a chance to see where
Yeah, I
they
just
can-
have to put my work hat on for a second.
Yes.
So that's the Better Without app,
Oh,
available
yeah.
now
I
in
should
the
know
App
better.
Store.
That's right. Betterwithout.app, app, or available on the Better Rhodes
Yep,
site.
just search Better Without in your App Store or your Google Play.
This is going a bit off of the actual products, but part of what you spend a lot of time of, and it reminded me when you said kind of some of the original genesis for what we do here, was the curated collections, the subscriptions, and we have done some things, and I know it's so tied to various customer segments and what's coming with the products. Anything you want to say about that in terms of what you've seen that maybe surprised you around where people have shown interest, or any that you'd want to call out, or any that you're thinking of that you've kind of got in mind for when we have more time and energy?
Yeah. I think the most exciting thing, personally to me, and what I've tried to incorporate. So we have 3 subscription types here at Better Rhodes. We have a beer subscription, a wine subscription, and a cocktail box subscription. The cocktail box is particularly fun because each month you'll receive all of the ingredients except for fresh lemon squeeze
Right.
of lemon, a wedge of lemon, because we can't ship that very well. But you'll receive all the ingredients that you need to make cocktails, and we provide those recipes for you on a recipe card. They're also all available on our website. But I think the thing that's been the most exciting and what we've found really resonated with a lot of our customers who do like mixology and making the drinks at home is the category of botanic spirits.
Okay.
So these are, spirits made in the style of a gin, tequila, whatever it is, but they're not trying to replicate the flavor of.
Okay.
So these are really fun and unique flavor profiles, stuff you haven't tried before. Like we have, they're in that section of our showroom over there. We have, some really cool flavor combinations like cucumber and serrano pepper and like all these different fun flavor combinations that I think once you try it the first time, you're like, ooh, this is fun. And it gives you that lovely experience of crafting a really fancy drink at home without having to rely on, the flavor of gin or the flavor of rum.
And then, that might be a good segue into what I know one of the things we wanted to talk about was tasty combos, tasty experiences. As you mentioned, we do have different categories. Yes, there are beers, spirits, wines, sparklings, ready-to-drinks, functionals, and to your point, I think more and more you're seeing kind of lots of white space between those because they don't always have to tie back to an alcohol older cousin, if you like, in terms of a brand. Like, what have been some of your discoveries around how you make these beverages really stand out?
I think it's, to make it accessible, I think it's important that you come at it from a place of, not trying to push the envelope too far and using stuff that you may have access to really easily. I'm not going to tell you to go and we're not going to send you this bottle and say, okay, now go to the store and find, organic guava juice from, it's like, no, you have this spirit and we're going to tell you, do that with a little bit of club soda and a lime and just rely on the flavors that are in the botanic spirits or whatever it is already. So we want to make it accessible for people so that they don't feel like all of a sudden I'm switching to alcohol free and that means I have to like source all these crazy ingredients from everywhere. No, it's your club soda, it's your tonic, it's your sparkling grapefruit, which is everywhere now, or your favorite seltzer, like whatever it is. You experiment and mix, and I think that's the biggest thing is just making it accessible for yourself, that it doesn't feel like this daunting thing to try to switch. Okay. Or just incorporate some of these beverages.
All right, and with that, with some of the tastings and experiences, are there any others you want to call out, like that you've liked in the wine category or spirits? Or?
Yeah, I think not specific products, but I would like to talk a little bit briefly about like just the whole experience of tasting these products in general. So when it comes to spirits, alcohol-free spirits, like please, I'm looking right into the camera now. Please do not get the bottle from Better Rhodes or wherever you've got it from. Open it at room temperature and take a taste of it right there.
Which literally was the first thing I ever did. But,
right.
Okay.
So, because a lot of people say, oh, wait, this doesn't taste anything like I was expecting it to. Well, okay, maybe you would do that with a bottle of alcohol, I guess, if you needed a shot or something. But these drinks are not really.
Do it for
exactly.
You.
These are alcohol-free spirits are meant to be made into cocktails and into mixed drinks. And the more experience that you can put behind it in terms of putting it in your favorite cocktail glass, garnishing it really nicely, like setting the mood around it will dramatically change your tasting experience. Same thing with wine too. So an analogy I like to make with wine is people will try like 2 and 3 different alcohol-free wines and get frustrated and say, oh, I can't find the one. Well, okay, if you're a wine drinker, when you first started enjoying traditional wine, how long did it take you to find the varietal that you like first? How long did it take you to determine, oh, Cabernet is my favorite? And then once you determined that you loved Cabernet, how long did it take you then to find the specific brands that you like? Because they're all different. So it's the same thing with ours. Just because there's a little bit less of, alcohol-free wine on the market doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to find that one immediately. There's a whole process and it's similar to the traditionally made spirits. And then beer too, like you want to pour that beer into your favorite glass, or make sure that it's really frosty cold, and then enjoy your, don't pop it right from the shipping box, which was sitting on your porch.
Right. Any hacks, any alcohol-free hacks? So a couple I've heard, I don't know if they're hacks, but one of the ones is, back to your points about what not to do. So a lot of people, if you're getting alcohol-free spirits, let's say, without the alcohol, and I am not a beverage expert, but I've learned, I try to pick up quick, I've learned things from people who are experts, and that alcohol, besides its physical impact, it actually helps deliver the flavor. It creates and the smells and the things that go with the drink, and that's one of its strengths. So when you lose that from an alcohol-free spirit, you lose some of that delivery. So I've heard, for example, from some folks that are mixology experts with alcohol-free, is you should really do 3-to-1. So if it's 1 ounce of whiskey for a Coke, you actually put 3 ounces of alcohol-free whiskey to try to get to that strength, because you have to make up for the lack of alcohol delivering a punch of flavor with more of it, whatever it happens to be. So that was one. And then I've been playing around with, and again, I've only by watching some influencers talk about it, by putting some bitters in my alcohol-free reds. It's interesting. It gives you that kind of post-sip bite that you might expect from the alcohol delivery from a red. Anything like that you have either seen yourself or seen working, given you've been behind a lot of event tables and served, or what you've heard from folks?
Sure, yeah. I think back to your point you made a minute ago about like the things that carry the flavor. So the alcohol in a beverage is one of the things that kind of helps to carry the flavor, as you're taking a sip or whatever.
Right.
So another one, a good like sort of, I don't know if it's a hack, but another one is carbonation. So carbonation really helps to move that flavor across. There's all this science about like how the different flavors affect, your flavor zones and on your tongue and on your palate and all that stuff. But the basic point is, try it. If you tried something and you didn't, even wine, for example, but if you've tried something that you didn't like on the first sip, try mixing it with a little club soda or seltzer, and that little bit of effervescence really helps to wake up the flavor. So carbonation, that's a good one. I loved your point about the bitters. I've tried that as well. We have alcohol-free bitters as well, so you can add that to your wine. You said one other thing. No, I'm not.
It was the 3-to-1, but it was anything we've heard from our folks that are.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that too, just to say, with alcohol-free spirits in general, you're going to want to up that ratio of the spirit to whatever mixer. But one thing that I haven't tried necessarily, I've tried it a couple of times, but some of our customers will say that they actually mix their alcohol-free spirit or wine or beer with traditionally made to reduce the amount of alcohol in their beverage, so they can have a little bit more or whatever it is. So that's one thing to consider, is that you can always just sort of like do your own ratio of the alcohol free to the traditional.
Okay. Let's get back to you.
Oh,
so
boy. You've
heard from kind of what your experience has been coming into being part of the Better Rhodes team. And then from all our customers, what are some of the biggest surprises or misconceptions that, yes, from our customer, from your perspective, or some of the things that you enjoy?
Well, I'm a self-admitted not beer person, so I don't have a ton of experience in
alcohol or non-alcohol.
Correct. Yes, beer was never really.
So I say alcohol-free beer. You're like,
yes.
I didn't care before. Right. I don't care now.
Right. No, but it's been. You asked what is surprising, and I've actually learned a lot about beer by sampling alcohol-free beer. So
Andrew, I should say, is also in charge of our sampling. So we get a lot of great producers and products who are kind enough to send us in their products and beverages to taste and try and see if they're fit for us or whatever. So I would say, probably tasted everything more than any other single person.
Sure.
From front to back.
Yeah, I think definitely expanded. I've been a bartender, I've been a server,
Yeah,
I've been a
before,
maitre
too.
d' and all that stuff. So I kind of get the restaurant space. I have a lot of experience with wine and cocktails. So something that's been really surprising to me is drinks or alcohol-free beverages, specifically in the spirit space, that use a vinegar base. That
Okay.
was like a
Right.
really fun and really interesting, surprise to me. Like,
Yeah, it is.
this thing where the base flavor is based off of apple cider vinegar, and then how they formulate it, it's like it really gives you that really fun kind of, it's an elevated experience, whereas not just like a gin and tonic. It's something like, ooh, wow, this is a really unique flavor combination with that bite of vinegar.
Yeah.
Not like you're just drinking vinegar. It's way more sophisticated than that, but you can tell that there's that underlying
Yeah.
base flavor.
Well, and that's
there.
even explaining it verbally, let alone trying to explain it and about to taste it. That's the first thing. Is like vinegar. I don't want to drink vinegar. It's like, well, wait.
Right.
It's a catalyst. You probably don't want to drink straight medical grade alcohol either.
Right.
But it's still immersed. We've spent 100 years positioning alcohol very nicely. Not so much with vinegar. But it does speak to where that's one path of innovation. You're already seeing it with proxies and a few others that are out there. Acid League and some others in Canada, the United States, and elsewhere. But it's, what I found is it's hard enough to explain largely what we've spent this time talking about, which is, hey, it's an adult beverage, which you can experience as an adult, but that doesn't have alcohol. That's already a conversation. To have that conversation and say, oh, and by the way, this drink you're about to enjoy is also based on a whole different approach based on vinegar. That's like it's almost a bridge. And I think we're getting there as the discussion of alcohol-free is less of a conversation. Mm-hmm. Maybe like if you were a vegetarian in the 80s, it was a conversation. If you're a vegetarian in 2022, not so much of a conversation. But we have to have that conversation and the next conversation. So there's technical innovation out there to do some pretty cool things. But that's a lot of conversations to have and explanations. And I think it's going to take more time for the market and the consumer to catch up with where the producers can actually create some pretty cool stuff.
For sure. I think if you're listening or watching, and you're sitting at home and you're thinking, I have a lot of these questions that we're talking about, like, please reach out to us. We want to be that resource to help you with the education component. It's hard when our online marketplace, we can only put so much information out.
Yeah.
And we're going to, we have a lot of great plans for like cool videos and stuff that we're going to put out. But we, right now, just call us, email me, email hello@betterrhodes.com. I'm the one who answers there most of the time. So yeah, shoot me these questions, shoot us. And I always pass
on the social channels, you can ask questions.
Social media, our Facebook group, like there's a lot of great resources out there to learn about all of these things we're talking about.
Well, I'm sure people appreciate that, and I've appreciated it because I think this is such an early space, that education and helping people to get liquid on lips, and either with us directly by getting beverages to producers or with our partner bottle shops and accounts in the restaurant and wine store and grocery trades. The more we can educate, because people have lots of questions, and rightfully so, because it is a relatively new space. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to say?
Yes, I would love, if you're listening, to give you a special discount. You can go to betterrhodes.com and shop around on there, and then use discount code AFRadio20. That's AFRADIO20. AFRadio20 for 20% off your purchase of $20 or more.
Okay, and we will get that to the team so that they can share that. So AFRadio20 gets you 20% off. Hopefully you'll try it out and check out some of the ideas that Andrew and I had a chance to talk to you about today. So Andrew, Head of Customer Service and Experience here at Better Rhodes, thank you for your time.
Thank you
for sharing your knowledge and insight, and experience with all our great customers and people out there learning more about this space.
Thanks.
Okay, take care, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Alcohol Free Radio. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a message on social media or through email at hello@betterrhodes.com. Great to be here with you all together. Take care.